to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School, where we explore all kinds of things, stories about quilting, tools, field trips, maybe some famous quilters stop by, and, of course, a little bit of copyright filming just for fun. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Townsend-Gard. I'm a law professor, and I just wanna quilt. So today we talked to Natalia Bonner. She has a business, Piece and Quilt, Piece and then N and then Quilt, pieceandquilt.com. And she has this business with her mom. So this is super cool. They've written books. They have notions. They have a full store. They do quilting. They do all kinds of stuff. So it's really fun to talk with her about both how how they work together, how they make their patterns, publishing. It's awesome. So we're going to start with the first question, which I know, which is tell me your name and where you're calling from.
I am Natalia Bonner, and I live in southern Utah.
Oh, very cool. And tell me your first memory of someone sewing or quilting in your life.
Oh, that is a really good question. I always tell people my first memory was as a child, like sitting around my mom. I guess I'll just tell you the whole thing. So my mom always sewed. My grandma always sewed. My great-grandparents sewed. So it's something for me that just kind of came natural. I honestly don't remember a time in my life not being around sewing or sewing machines. So
that's really cool.
Since birth.
And do you remember, how old were you when they started teaching you to sew?
The first time I ever made like a quilt, I was probably like 7. Mm-hmm. But I was always it was something that, it was a social thing. So it was something I was just always around. And I'm sure that I probably made little projects before that. But the first full project was probably around 8.
Very cool. And how did your quilting life develop?
So I grew up like that, but everybody around me sewed. Most of my childhood, my mom actually owned a home decor and custom drapery store. So that's kind of where I really got involved in sewing and things like that. But then, you grow up, go through high school, and everything that your mom does isn't cool. So I quit sewing.
I have one of those now. I have a teenager right now. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure you know the other side of it. Exactly. So I got married, and when I was pregnant with my daughter, then I know everybody always says that when you're pregnant, then you get this weird bug and decide to start sewing again. And that's what happened. But mine went a little crazy, and I went and bought a long arm. So
you did?
Yeah.
So what kind of long arm? How quickly, when you started quilting again, did you buy a long arm?
I would say it was within like a week.
Wow.
It was a crazy impulsive decision, but
that's craziness.
Really
and what long arm did you buy?
I started out with the Gamel 18-inch machine.
Wow, that's good. And then did you stick with that, or have you changed over time?
So I actually quilted on that machine for 9 years, like quilted like crazy. And I sold it. It still runs great. I just upgraded to the 22-inch machine.
And stayed with Gamel?
Yeah, still a Gamel.
That's so funny. I just interviewed someone who's a teacher for Gamel, and she's like, there's something about Gamel that makes people like, it's like Apple. Apple's early Apple people, early Apple adopters, right? Which was my husband. When we got together, he came to my parents' house and told them that I had to convert to Apple computers. I couldn't use PC anymore. And Gamel feels that way. There's a loyalty, right?
Yes, there definitely is. At least for me, I feel super loyal to Gamel. So
that's really interesting. And then tell me about Piece and Quilt.
So when I started, when I bought my long arm, initially it was just really to give me something to do. I was pregnant, and I'm a very busy person. Like, I have to be active all the time. And so it was kind of like, I'll just have something to do on the side. But quickly, because I have so many friends and so many family that quilt, it kind of turned into a business really quickly. And it's just the thing. It's a play on peace and quiet, piece and quilt. So that's my little business.
I like that. How did you turn it into a business? Because I feel like, there's this kind of weird moment where like you're quilting and then you're quilting for others, and then, oh my gosh, like how did you move to charging people for quilting?
It was pretty quickly after I had bought in my long arm, but I realized right from the beginning that if I'm going to quilt for other people, maybe I would give them a discount or something like that. But I've always felt like my time is just as valuable as anybody else's, just because what I'm doing is an art or not your typical job. My time is still just as valuable. So I've always charged.
Yeah, good. That's great. Did you charge separately for the thread, or did you have that as part of the package?
No, I've never. That I've always just included in my quilting fee. However, if it's like a really detailed quilt or something like that where I'm changing thread colors, then I do charge a little bit more each time I have to change the thread color.
And are you using a computerized gammal to do that? Or are you doing it free motion?
I have both. So my edge-to-edge quilting, just like quilting with no regard to borders or anything, with that or that type of quilting, I do it with the Statler, with the computer. But then all the custom work, which is mostly what I do, is like 99% free motion. Occasionally I'll use the computer for a little bit.
That's remarkable. And how much does an average quilt go for you in Utah?
Oh, it all just depends. Yeah. Honestly, the majority of the quilts I quilt are not people that even live in Utah. The majority of the stuff I do is people outside of Utah that know me.
Right, because you've got a national reputation.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, so I charge by the square inch, but it all just depends on the size.
Yeah, and it's a really complicated. It's a hard question.
Yeah.
I was interviewing someone from Alabama, and they were like, I just can't charge the prices that other places charge because I don't live in a place that's, no one would purchase it. So I thought that was really interesting that there was some sort of, I don't know how you'd find that out. Maybe there's somebody who's already done that work, but it'd be interesting to see how much
I have heard things like that, but like and I've definitely raised my prices over the years, but like I've worked really hard to create what I have. So
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of skill. I mean, it's a lot. It's not everybody can do this. So they're paying for more than just your time. They're paying for your expertise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So tell me about, it says about us. So tell me about your partnership with Kathleen and sort of what this is.
So Kathleen is actually my mom.
Kathleen is your mom. That's great, right?
I know most people can't tell, but she's actually my mom. So like I mentioned,
that's so great.
It's kind of funny. So she works a full-time, regular 8 to 5 job in a hospital, but she's super creative. So as far as all the machine quilting goes, that's all me. It's 100% me.
Interesting.
She's never touched my machine or anything like that. We actually don't even live near each other.
Yeah.
But we collaborate on like the patterns and the fabric and those things.
Very cool. So tell me about, you've got a bunch of books and patterns and other things, and you've got a bit of a shop here. So tell me a little bit about sort of that side of the business for you.
Oh, let's see. At nighttime, that's what I'm doing when I'm not quilting. But yeah, my first book came out in 2012, so 6 years ago. And it's just kind of gone from there. It's something that I never thought I would do. I am the person that just has a high school degree and never thought I could write a book or, go down a path like that. But having awesome publishers help me, walk me through the process.
So how did you get that first book contract?
For me, it all came from blogging and making connections that way.
Amazing.
I started blogging right after I started quilting
back
10 years ago, when blogging, or 11 years, whatever, when blogging was a whole different thing than it is now.
Yeah.
But that's really, it kind of just served as like a portfolio for me.
Yeah.
And
it's so interesting because you're part of this generation. There's a bunch of you, right, that start blogging at a particular time. You're kind of leaders in the field. And you grew up with blogging. Like, as blogging grew up, so too did you. And now you're going to be like, you're like you're the next wave of leaders and like makers, and you've changed the way it looks. I really think that your impact on quilting is huge as a group. Do you feel that way?
Well, thank you
Yeah, I really
for
do.
including me in
It's
that.
kind of remarkable. There's like a group of you, right? There's like
Yeah,
I don't know if you all know each other, if you're in a club, but there is this thing. You all started about the same time blogging, and
yeah,
you know,
yeah, I totally agree that it's something, at least for me, it just kind of felt natural that, okay, now I'll just start blogging, and just
yeah,
almost like a generation of, we didn't have anything to lose.
yeah,
So why not?
right,
Versus,
yeah,
I know a lot of people, like my mom, for example, just the thought of putting yourself out there like that is a little bit overwhelming. And
yeah,
I'm like, it's not my personal information. Like, it's my
right,
work. It's
yeah. No,
so,
and it's so funny because it also becomes, it's kind of a rhythm. Like that's
oh
kind
yeah.
of, like when people blog, because I don't know, I blogged early, like I got to my job by blogging, so my
Mm-hmm.
academic job, like that's how I got known, and then I got a good job and blah blah blah. But then I
Yeah.
stopped blogging once I got the job. I'm not sure why, but I did because I felt like, oh, I'm good, I'm done.
Yeah.
But it's just part of a rhythm of your life, and I think that when people are like, well, I have to start a blog, it doesn't feel authentic. There's something
Yeah.
hard about it, and I don't think your generation feels that way.
I totally agree with that. When there's kind of like an agenda behind it, it kind of comes across. And
Yeah, and a
if you could just
chore.
let go
Right.
and be
You guys
like,
didn't see it as a chore, did you?
no, not at all. It honestly, and I think that's something with like all of the whole social media. It was never a chore. It was like an excitement, like
Yeah.
almost getting high off of it. Kind of this
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Now, what about YouTube videos or other social media? Do you feel like that's important to you as well?
Yes, I do. And honestly, like I started with YouTube. I shared my first video over there like 7 years ago, and it was totally this just me setting my tripod up next to my machine and
Yeah.
just quilting. Like I had no idea what I was doing
Yeah.
and didn't really ever do anything with it
Yeah.
until just this past fall. I was like, I'm going to start sharing videos over there again. And it's been a really great thing. And over the years, I felt like I just didn't have the right, maybe headspace is the right thing
Yeah.
to share a lot on YouTube. And I'm finally to a place in my personal life and maybe my business life where I'm like, okay, I can just share. And I do have to say the reaction from people to my videos that I've been creating have been amazing. And that's kind of, for me, maybe right now, that's the thrill or whatever that I was getting from blogging a few years ago.
Yeah.
Now
Right. Like it's your new thing. Now,
yeah.
where do you film your videos?
In my amazing studio, which is just the spare bedroom in my house.
It looks great. And what kind of camera, if people are out there, like what kind of equipment did you have to get it up and running?
Well, I started out doing it just on my DSLR camera,
Yeah.
just mounting it on there and just filming with that. But now I film a lot of things on my phone.
Because it's easier, right?
Yeah, it's
crazy,
easier.
right?
It's there. I can just send it off, email it or whatever.
Totally. So we were like all about equipment because I have a budget and I love buying equipment. It's like one of my favorite things to do. My husband too. So we're like, oh, we're going to get a GoPro and like blah, blah, blah. And then it's like our phone is just as good. It's easier sometimes. So it's remarkable that the phones have gotten as good as they have. So let me ask you, your focus, I want to look a little bit about sort of the books and the substance. It seems like the focus of your work is the quilting process as opposed to piecing. Would you agree that's kind of your focus?
I would say yes, that's my focus. I do love piecing, and I've written, well, my mom and I, Kathleen, have co-written 2 books on piecing.
It's so cool.
But
yes.
Yeah, machine quilting is really what makes me excited.
And since I'm a copyright professor, what I'm really interested in is the copyright part. So tell me about like the digital pantographs. Like you tell me about what you do, and they're like on your website. They're like $15 each. And so tell me how you make those, and then how worried you are about people. Like tell me a little bit about those.
So I create them, they're a digital file that I create, and anybody with the computer portion on the long arm machine can use those.
Yeah.
On my site, when you download them, like they have a certain amount of time that they have to download them by. And when they download them, there's a little bit of information in there, like what you can and can't do. You know, you can it's fine with me if they use those files on 1,000 different quilts. Like, I don't care as long as they're not sharing the pattern with another machine quilter.
Yeah. Right. So that makes sense. So from an economic point of view, from my point of view, copyright point of view, you've paid for the pattern. You can use it as much as you want, but you'd rather have somebody else. Like, each person should pay for their own set of patterns. Is that kind of the way you feel?
Yeah, exactly. And so once you buy it for $15, you can use it 15,000 times. You know what I mean?
And they can use it.
Felt like, for the most part, I think that people have been honest about that.
Yeah.
But who knows? Once it's in people's hands, maybe they do other things with it. But I felt like quilters have been pretty honest. You know, maybe I know that people aren't always honest with like pieced patterns, but I do feel that it's a little bit different with this type of file that they're getting. So, but no, I don't like encrypt them or anything like that, 'cause I've just found that it makes it a little bit more difficult for people when they're just downloading them. So,
do you feel like the community that's buying patterns for computerized long arms or a particular kind of crowd that they recognize? I mean, they've already invested a lot of money. So, like, buying and they're usually doing it for a profession, so they get that there's a budget, right? Is that different? Do you think the crowd that you're appealing to on those, it's a bit different?
Yeah, that's exactly what I think. I feel like it's not just like, well, now I have this machine. You know what I mean? Like, they've spent a lot of money just in their machine, and like most people that I know, they just buy them and download them right onto that machine, so that it's not like, you know, it's not like in the olden days when we'd carry a disc around and have to load it on.
Right.
It's there. So, and you could, I guess, technically email them to your friends or whatever, but
they're not doing that because that's just not part of the culture, I imagine, of what's going on.
I just haven't had a problem with that.
What?
So I just haven't had a problem with that.
That's
so
good.
I haven't been too
That's good. That's really good. Now tell me a little bit about, so that's the digital pantographs and the block patterns and the digital pattern sets. Tell me a little bit about how they're different than the quilt patterns and the books. Those are really different, I would imagine. Let's look at the quilt patterns first.
Exactly. It's completely different. Like, it's appealing to, in my opinion, two totally different types of quilters.
Yeah.
You know, there are some people that do both, that do the free motion and the computerized, but I found it's either people, for the most part, I don't want to like group everybody, but I found that for the most part, people either do computerized or they do free motion.
Yeah.
So my books are geared completely towards the free motion hand-guided quilter.
Right, and the beginning, aren't you? There are a lot, like, they're beginner guides, and they're like teaching how to do feathers and walking foot. So you're really like geared towards the people who are just getting into free motion quilting. Would you agree?
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, the whole reason that I even wrote the first book, or this, you know, second, third, whatever, it's when I bought my machine, there were classes that were included, and I could have learned a lot more at that time. But because I was 8 months pregnant, I never ended up taking any of the classes. So in the books, it's pretty much everything I wish I would have known when I started really quilting.
Are you concerned about people? What worries you about the PDF version of the pattern versus the paper version of the pattern, in terms of people sharing it or using it or making multiple copies or any of those things?
So I guess my whole thought on the whole sharing of patterns and everything is that for the amount of money that you're going to spend on 1 yard of fabric, you could go and buy the pattern.
Yeah.
You know, the people that design, all the pattern designers out there, the amount of money we're making off a paper pattern is so minimal that, you know, think about that before you go and just copy someone's pattern or do something like that.
Yeah.
I've had instances where I know that people have shared it just with their friend, whatever. Like, you know, it's not right, but whatever. But I did also have an instance where somebody photocopied right out of my book, one of my piecing books, photocopied a pattern and posted it online to a group of 5,000 people.
Oh, no. Now, did they start – now, it would be okay if they went and bought the book, right? Like, if it was like like if you did it. If you said, "Hey, this is a book. This is out of my book, and here's a free version of it," how did you respond to that, and how did the publisher respond to it?
So I was very, very upset and hurt about it. And to be totally clear, I wasn't the only designer that this had happened to. So there
Yeah.
was like four of us that it happened to. And sadly enough, a lot of ladies in the group attacked me and were saying that I was such a greedy person and blah, blah, blah for all of that. But luckily my publisher's awesome and they sent a cease and desist letter and everything. They took care of everything. So that was an instance where I was really happy to have my publisher.
That's really great.
And support me.
In case people don't know what that means. So you saw it online. You got really upset. You let your publisher know. The publisher's attorney then sent a letter to there's two ways to go. They sent a cease and desist letter to the people that were doing it to say stop it, and they probably also sent a letter to a notice to the platform saying take it down.
I think so.
Yeah. Right. And people don't understand that's part of being a copyright holder, right? You get to do that, right?
Yes.
They can't do that. You cannot photocopy stuff. I mean, there's ways you can, like fair use or whatever, but you can't just like blatantly take something and post it up online, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what. And, and the thing when that happened, it was over a log cabin block and a few people were like, it's a log cabin.
Right.
Like, you can write your own instructions for a log cabin block. Anybody can write the instructions for anything. It's the instructions that I own, not necessarily the block.
That's interesting. Well, that's really interesting. And it's your selection, arrangement, and coordination of the beautiful thing. How you made your interpretation of the log cabin is what is protected. Ironically, the instructions aren't protected by copyright, but it's how you made it. Image, which is so weird, right? Because you think like you put the effort into the instructions. Why don't we protect the instructions, right?
Yeah, it was a really interesting learning experience, to say the least.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right. Tell me a little bit about your shop, because you have a bunch of things you can buy on here, both your patterns and I totally want to try your the digital pantographs, but also thread and Notion. So tell me how you do that, and do you have a bunch of it in your house, or like how do you make the shop?
We do. So we just work from home, and the stuff that I sell online in my little shop, I just store it in my garage, and at night my husband packs orders, and he works a regular job. So we put our kids to bed and then he watches Sports Center and does that. But
interesting. And how lucrative is that to sell the thread and the notions and other stuff? Like, is that a good way to is it a good business?
Well, to be completely honest, like I'm still quilting and my husband still has a regular job. So we're not making millions off of it, but it's enough extra money to pay for my daughter's swim team,
that's nice. Yeah. I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
And the thread that you're using, are you using Superior threads? Is that what you're using? And tell me why.
And a lot of people ask me this, and so to be like flat out, I live about a mile down the street from Superior Threads.
You do?
But which is so really cool. Awesome. But has nothing to do with why I use their products.
Have you met I've interviewed Todd Purcell twice. He's really fun and really nice. They seem like a really nice family.
Yeah. Yep. And it's just right down the road.
That's so funny.
When I started using their products, I didn't even live here. So it had nothing to do with that. It was all trial and error. I tried every brand, everything I could imagine out there to finally figure out the result that I wanted. And when I came across the So Fine thread and the bottom line thread, then I was like, it's like the stars started shining or whatever, that it was just a combination that I really liked. I'm really happy with the results. So I was like, it has nothing to do with where I live.
That's so funny. Now, do you do any kind of like is there any sponsorship, or do you do any kind of affiliate linking or like anything like that to make extra money?
No, I don't do any. I have had sponsors like on my blog, things like that.
Yeah.
And a little bit of money that I earn off of YouTube.
Yeah.
But
that's not really where your focus is. So
no, it's not my focus. It's, and I have a couple of companies that, well, I guess I have a couple little ads on the blog, but they'll pay you to do like certain blog posts and stuff like that. And I just, unless it's something I actually use and I actually really am passionate about, then I'm not going to promote a product I don't really use.
Yeah, no, I get it. I totally get it. We're trying to understand. That's I'm an entrepreneurship professor too, so we're trying to understand that part of it as well. So we've been exploring and understanding what that is exactly. Well, this is like so very cool. Last question. Obviously, you do lots of teaching. Do you do much traveling with teaching right now because you have a kid?
Yes, I do.
You do? Oh my gosh.
A lot of traveling. So since September of last year, I've only been home 2 consecutive weekends.
Oh my gosh.
Like 3 times this.
Oh my gosh. That is a lot of traveling. Oh my gosh. That's a lot. You're heroic.
My husband, I should say, is the hero because he works and takes care of the kids and makes dinner and laundry. So
that's really nice. Husbands are great. Well, I remember, like, I traveled a lot when mine was little because for work, and it was really cool because my kid was really cool with her dad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm around all the time, it would be different. But they had their own, like, when I left, they had their own routine. They did their own thing. It was cool, you know? So I always felt like it was good that I was on the road. I
totally agree.
You know,
it makes everybody appreciate each other a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good for them to see mom going off to do stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's awesome, you know? That it's like you're a good role model for them, you know?
I'm trying to be.
Yeah. No, I think it's hard. I mean, it's good, but I think it's good. I mean, I don't know. I liked it. All right, last thing, sew-alongs. Tell me a little bit about the sew-alongs.
So I've done a couple of piecing sew-alongs on my blog over the years. I haven't done anything super recently just because I've been focusing so much more on the education side of things. Yeah. So like right now I have an interactive class that I'm getting ready to start and I post a bit on Patreon. So that's really been kind of my focus is the videos and the education and things like that right now.
Versus, and are people paying for the videos on your...
So on YouTube, obviously everything there is free, but then the interactive ones that I'm getting ready to do, it's a class. So
interesting. So they'll be able to, and tell me, what did you just say? Where do you said, is it Patreon? What did you just say?
Patreon. Yeah. Patreon's the other place that I share videos and it is a paid platform and those videos. So on my YouTube videos, they're not tutorial style. They're just like a video of me quilting.
Yeah.
And then over on Patreon, where it's a paid platform, then I'll go more in depth and more in detail into what I'm doing. Awesome. And I actually had a few people question me about that. Like, why would you charge us or why would you? And I think that people fail to realize that, you know, I have to pay someone to edit my videos, that's the huge, time that it takes away, all of that. So that's why I have to charge more for a little bit for that.
It's so funny because somebody asked me like, oh, I don't edit out very much. I mean, I'll edit out the big ridiculous problems we had today, but I'm very light on red editing. And they're like, why don't you edit more? I'm like, because it takes a lot of time. You know, like
it is a lot of work. And
I'm like, I'm not interested in that. So
yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Well, this is really cool. This is really delightful. So if people are listening, people are listening. That's cool. We have an audience. So, so your blog, your website's called Piece and Quilt. So Piece, like PIECE, and quilt.com. And you have you have all kinds of stuff on there, the teaching and events. Where are you going to be next? What are you doing? What's upcoming for you?
I'm actually not going anywhere now until I'll be teaching in the fall in Salt Lake at an event. And then in September, I'll be at MQX in Chicago. So that's cool. All I have left for this year.
That is really nice. That's great.
Going a little slower for the fall.
That's good. That's really good. All right. Fabulous. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Okay. See ya.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
So this is Elizabeth Townsend Guard. You've been listening to Just Wanna Quilt, a research podcast coming out of Tulane University Law School. We want to hear from you. Join our army, our quilting army. Go to our Facebook page. Suggest people to be interviewed. Suggest yourself to be interviewed. We are excited to hear from you. But most importantly, I hope you get a chance to quilt today.